Welcome to Catholic Life, as we spotlight ordinary people with extraordinary faith. And I'm going to tell you, our next guest has extraordinary faith. I want to introduce you to my friend, Tammy Jackson. She is the director of OCIA, Order of Christian Initiation for Adults, at Immaculate Conception Church in Denham Springs. Thank you so much for coming and hanging out with me today.
Thank you for having me. Yes.
It's a joy. Tammy and I met a number of years ago, probably about 7 years ago or so, through our work in the vineyard. And I always have wanted to bring you on and talk about your leadership and your role in helping people become Catholic. But before we get to that, tell us a little bit about yourself and where you grew up and how you got to be where you are today in your mission.
Sure, that's a story. So I grew up in Denham Springs, always Catholic, baptized early on. I taught in the public schools, high school, and after I did that for 10 years in the regular classroom, I began the English as a Second Language program in Livingston Parish, did that for 10 years. Retired from that, and all these years though, my husband and I both had been very active in various ministries. I was a catechist for different grade levels, and I guess what led to me becoming the director for RCIA at Immaculate Conception was right after the flood of 16. Yes.
Yeah.
Things were just devastated, and the RCI director at the time had decided she was going to retire. The numbers were really low, and understandably, because everybody was looking for where they're going to live, where are they going to eat, things like that. And so during those months following the flood of 16, she approached me several times and asked if I would become the new director. So it took a little persuading, but finally, I agreed to do that and started in the summer of 17.
Yeah.
The numbers were real low, like I said, and they seem low for us.
Comparatively speaking now.
I think in 16, I looked up the numbers, there were 19 people.
Yeah.
So that was a low number for us because we were used to way more than that. And the numbers have come back. The number of people who are inquiring are coming back as people got settled and realized, that they were looking for the Lord, and they didn't realize, and they had put that idea just on a shelf for a while.
It's amazing how whenever there's a tragedy that hits, the physical needs are most important.
Yes.
And so many homes were destroyed, and the rebuilding process and going through all of that was just tremendously stressful. But people are survivors here.
Right.
And then, how do we bring the Lord to them in those moments? I remember those were opportunities of packing up food and bringing it out into the neighborhoods and sharing that, because that's such a widespread devastation.
Yes.
But it seems like there was a little bit of gold in that, glimmering gold, the opportunities to invite people, especially you. Had you ever even gone to an RCIA session?
I had year, I guess the reason I was on the director's radar is because I was sponsoring that year.
Oh, okay.
And that was in the midst of surviving the flood, and I said yes, even though inside I was saying no. And but it was a good experience, and I got to see. Well, I had gone to the sessions before, just randomly.
Yeah.
But as a sponsor, I got to see that side of things.
Wow. So you were asked by someone to sponsor them, and
Yes.
I guess that's kind of my next question is, when someone asks you, how do I become Catholic? You're like, oh, this is going to be good. What's your response? What happens?
Well, there is a process, and that process, of course, has been known for 40 years now, is the rite of Christian initiation of adults, and only recently the name has changed to the order.
Yeah.
And it is a good change, because the order is more of an umbrella. Term, because this whole process is more than just a rite or rites, and so it is a better descriptive thing. But by calling it by the initials, whether it's RCIA or OCIA, it does create an insider language that's kind of excluding people, or is a turnoff.
They don't know what that is.
Right, because most people, even Catholics in the pew, would have no idea what RCIA even stands for.
Yeah.
So we try to make it more appealing, for one, to attract people, and that is we would put, I noticed that a lot of parishes call it Becoming Catholic.
Yeah.
Or inquiry to become Catholic or something like
Yeah,
that.
yeah.
And you can use OCIA, or Order of Christian Initiation, as the subtitle,
like a
right?
subtitle.
Have it there so people would recognize it. But to attract people also, the parish websites, I think, have become more and more important. And I would say, just looking around on various parish websites, probably 90% do not make it easy for somebody who's even thinking about becoming Catholic. So at Immaculate Conception and a few other parishes that we've kind of tipped off to this idea, it needs to be first thing on the website at the top. Just, we have a little place where you click and it
banner.
says,
Yeah.
I'm new.
Yeah.
And then it gives you choices, because it could be you moved to the area and you're already Catholic. You need to know how to register. But also, I'm thinking about becoming Catholic. I don't want to sign up yet, but what would I do?
Yeah.
And so to your question of what would you tell somebody, I first direct them to that website, which is it's got short videos that people can watch, a registration form that gives us a little bit of information about them. I invite them to come in and meet personally. So their first interview, I really hate to call it an interview, but their first interview is just an interaction, trying to find what their motivation is. Why now? Why not last year? Why not, what is prompting them?
Yeah.
And
and that's a one-on-one interview.
Oh, yes,
right?
definitely a one-on-one
very personal.
interview.
Yeah. I'm sure you discover a lot of things and hear their faith journey of how they got to be where they are. And everybody's different. Everybody's path is different. Everybody's calling's different. And what motivated them, it could be multiple things. Yeah. But just
big
the reality.
variety of things.
It sounds like you give them a lot of personal time to your time. It sounds like that's very important.
And as our numbers have grown, that's been more and more difficult. So the first year I was the director, I think I finished with 22 that year,
Becoming Catholic, yeah.
which was fine. That was easy to do. Being a high school teacher, I'm thinking 22 is not bad at all.
Right.
But as our numbers have grown and grown, I've had more trouble making that connection with people, or continuing that connection with people over the next few months. So we have an incredible RCIA team. They just make me look good. They are wonderful. They pay attention to a lot of details.
Yeah.
And they take care of a lot of things, mainly communicating with people and making people feel like they have that connection.
Yeah, that's beautiful. We'll talk about that in a second segment. So I want to talk about the phases, like the journey of someone.
Sure.
That is expressed interest and have experienced the first interview, and now they're actually coming to the sessions. Like, what are the phases? Like, what does that look like? Now, pre-evangelization's already happened because they've had a call, so now they're coming into.
Right.
So what are those phases that people experience?
So we begin in August, and we start with anywhere between 12 and 14 weeks of inquiry, or that pre-catechumenate. They are invited to just come and listen. Nothing's required of them. They're not put on the spot. They just listen. Every week is a different topic and a different presenter. They're coming to hear what the Catholic Church teaches and why. It's not interactive. We don't encourage participation because the catechists are preparing these wonderful presentations that are just giving them information, showing them resources that they can delve more deeply into with these topics. They're seeking, right. And there's no pressure to continue whatsoever. We make that very clear over and over again. Some of them are barely there. Most of them have not even told their families. It's a big variety of reasons and motivations. I mean, and you will have people in there who are totally uncatechized, sitting next to somebody that has a degree, maybe was a minister, a Protestant minister, who is well-versed in the Bible. And so how do you talk to a big group of like that? Well, experience as a high school teacher has come in handy because there are a lot of techniques that you can use that keep everybody engaged, no matter what their level is.
Yeah.
And so after those 13, 14 weeks, then they're asked to make a decision whether they want to continue into the catechumenate. Most of them decide yes, but every now and then we get a few. Every year, I'd say less than 5 every year. We'll press pause.
Yeah, they need more time.
They'll say, it's been nice, I've learned a lot, just not ready. And nobody bothers them about that. It's fine. They're free to do that. But we've noticed that they come back the next year.
Yeah.
So
and that's good
they've had time to process. There's no pressure.
Pause. Yeah, because it's a lot to think about. There could be other pressures or other opportunities. I know one gentleman, when I was serving RCIA, took a holy pause for a few months because there was some struggles in the family. And then he called back in like January, and he's like, is it too late to come back? I was like, it's never too late to come back.
Right.
Ended up, experiencing the sacraments of initiation at Easter. It was just a beautiful, beautiful witness of him still having that opportunity to be called, but not yet. Like he knew it was not yet. So during that first time, like the inquiry, we're just learning. I'm sure it's tempered with prayer, right?
Oh, yes.
Helping them build a relationship with the Lord, because some may not have ever had that conversation, right?
Right. So information and conveying information is one thing.
Yeah.
Teaching them to pray, which I think is probably our second or third session. We have an introduction to prayer, and just try to give them tips on. You have to remember, some of these people are just so basic.
Yeah.
They really have no clue. And so we try not to overwhelm them. We give them little tastes of things along the way. And then the third component I would say that's very important is community. Because people ask, well, can I just do this online? Well, you could do maybe part of it, or if there's a special circumstance or something, we can do part of that. But being there is what's important. It's being part of the community and experiencing that. And so having all these different catechists and all these different team members intermingling and meeting with people really gives them that sense of belonging. This is my home now.
Yeah. And once they make the decision to cross the threshold into kind of the next phase, I know that you guys experience the rite of welcoming and all that within the context of the Mass, which brings in the entire parish community.
We've had to modify that.
Because there's so many people.
When you welcome 100 people or so,
there's so many.
we can't call out everybody's name at Mass. We would have a revolt or something.
So y'all do that with them.
So we actually do that the day before we have a retreat, and we do most of that, and then we just recognize them in general at Mass.
At Mass, Okay, we're going to take a holy pause here, and when we come back, we're going to talk more about the next phases and the journey of RCIA, or OCIA as it's called now, going through a period of enlightenment and purification, of course experiencing the sacraments. So stay with us, we'll be right back in just a minute.
Catholic Life TV has a morning show for you. Watch Wake Up live from Catholic Community Media every weekday morning at 7. Fresh Catholic content from local priests, church events from our area, plus authors, the daily gospel, saints of the day, and prayer. Weekday mornings at 7, grab a cup of coffee and join us for a joyful hour on Wake Up on Catholic Life TV.
We are the fog on your glasses. We are the cup to go at breakfast. We are the answer to your deadline. We are closing the deal. But more than anything, we are never being out of coffee ever again. Never. We are River Road Coffees, and we're ready to prove that our coffee is better than whatever coffee you're drinking at the office. Call us today for a side-by-side taste test so you can get powered by River Road Coffees.
Welcome back to Catholic Life as we spotlight ordinary people with extraordinary faith. We're continuing our conversation with Miss Tammy Jackson, who's the director of OCIA at Immaculate Conception in Denham Springs, Louisiana. So we were just kind of going through the evangelization and the formation, and then their yes with the rite of welcome, which for you guys, there's so many that you do it outside the context of Mass, but they're acknowledged in Mass for sure. And then we move into the period of purification and enlightenment, and so what is that experience like for them?
So then it gets serious
Yeah,
because that's their last step.
Yeah.
And we have the scrutinies, and we do that at Mass, of course. And people are making that final decision. They are really delving deeper, breaking open the Word. We're going really deep into a lot of topics. And we have that short amount of time. It seems like it's a long time, but it's just those 5 or 6 weeks if you don't count Holy Week. Yeah. And most of them are ready. In the past, I've had a couple of them press pause then because things are just going too fast for them. But the preparation gets intense and the excitement builds. And so finally, at the Easter Vigil, everything culminates and it's beautiful. It lasted... I think we were 5 minutes short of 3 hours, and we baptized 32, and we confirmed 60. So, we had a long list of people for full communion, and of course, unbaptized. And these were all adults and children above the age of 7.
Yeah, that's beautiful. And then after Easter Vigil, it doesn't stop there. After they receive the sacraments, you just, this discipleship model is what I've experienced with the RCIA, journey at ICC is that there's always a discipleship model underneath it. So there's opportunities to serve and work through, but afterwards, continuing to grow as missionary disciples through what we call mystagogy. So unpacking the mysteries of the sacrament, unpacking the mysteries of our Lord Jesus and the kerygma, and then moving forward and really, embracing the faith and living it out.
So during those weeks of mystagogy, we it's kind of they're so used to meeting together. They don't want to stop.
There's a community.
They don't want to stop meeting together. So we have good retention after Easter that they continue to come. And then we do tell them this is mystagogy and what all this means and is, but their nickname for it is the what now, okay? Because now they're Catholic, they're finding their place, and we unfold all that for them. We tell them about opportunities, where do they fit, what do they do, how do they live the Catholic faith, and then they usually will go into various ministries or find their place in the church.
Well, you talked about the giftedness of all of your volunteers. So to been able to present to them and then sit with them and be with them, and I find it beautiful that even some that become Catholic come back in and become volunteers, either in the ministry of hospitality, and grow in their faith and continue to grow. So tell us about this great call and these witnesses of faith that serve the mission.
Well, like I said before, they do make me look good. They all have their gifts and they are all in. I always say I have several right hands because they just kind of take over and do what needs to be done. And we have divided it into components, I guess you would call them. Hospitality is one of them. The catechists that we train. We have a big children's RCIC or OCIC, the children with several catechists and student
because the children
helpers.
learn in a different space.
Yes, definitely. I think last year we had about 45 kids. And so the adult catechist, we will train them separately. We have something coming up because we start back in a week or two. So we have a separate training time for them, as well as for the children's catechist too. But hospitality is a big part of it. We have greeters. We have what we call minglers that just walk around and introduce themselves because, you'll find people that don't know anybody and they're just barely there. To try to engage them and make them feel welcome. I think what the team has told me, the people who have come in to the church recently, and who are now on the team, said that the reason that they participate so much is because they were loved into the church. They were welcomed and loved into the church. So, and they come from such different backgrounds. So you can always find somebody that can relate to somebody. We try to match them up. They're not really the sponsors yet from the beginning. Maybe later on they will become their sponsor or godparent. But just letting them realize that there's a lot of people there that are like them, and then very, very diverse people from different backgrounds too.
How does your pastor support you?
Oh, the clergy is very supportive.
Yeah, and deacons
too.
The
deacons too. So Deacon George Hooper, who has started really the same summer that I did, he had a heart for RCIA, and so he mainly meets and takes care of people with marriage issues. I interview them and try to figure out what I need to get from them, collecting the documents and all, and then he will meet with them to decide and make a plan of what needs to be done. And mentioning documents, that's another challenge because, we had a flood, and most people don't have any kind of baptismal certificate or anything like that. So
if they've been baptized in another church, another Christian church.
Not only will the documents be gone, but sometimes the church doesn't exist anymore.
Right, or even the photos, even sometimes.
Right, so we have to be creative as to how we can get their documents. And there's different things you can do, but if all else fails, you just have to do a conditional baptism.
Yeah.
I mean, that's just...
better safe
because
than
we
not.
can't, right.
I think so too. We were talking in the break about the opportunity. This doesn't stop. I mean, even though they've experienced sacraments of initiation, moving through mystagogy, this doesn't stop because not everybody comes and knocks on the door in August, right? You have people inquiring all year long.
Right, all year long.
So how do you respond to them and accompany them?
True. So we were saying that the Holy Spirit doesn't just say, oh, it's time to sign up for OCIA.
Right.
I think I'll send some people. It's all year round that we get people inquiring. And the important thing is not to tell them to just come back when it's time. Never do that. So, of course, I meet with them right then and there whenever we can. And try to engage them in something that's ongoing. Sometimes they'll just start coming to the classes and we'll just reassess depending on what time of the year it is.
Yeah.
There's always Bible studies going on. There's always something starting up. There's service opportunities that they can come and be a part of, to meet people. So maybe they would not come through at that Easter vigil. It might be delayed. They can come through at any time of the year. So we've had people who had to kind of press pause and are back. And then we've had people who started up halfway, but depending on where they were in their journey, you could feel comfortable letting them come through at that Easter vigil.
It's such a personal experience
It is.
when they're ready. And when, depending on where they are. Some people, like you said, are uncatechized, have just to know that they're called to come and be a Catholic, become a Catholic. So there's a lot more time that's needed for them. Other people have grown up. Let's say if there's a marriage and a spouse marries another spouse, and one spouse is Catholic, one is not, but they've gone to church and have done everything, and you would think that they are Catholic, when you see them. So they have more formation and opportunity, so their time is a little less. I think that's what I love about the beauty of the OCIA pilgrimage, I call it, of faith, is that, it's the divine pedagogy. It's the Lord coming to meet them and inviting them to come to know them. And so in RCIA, as volunteers, we meet them in their space, get to know them, form relationship, and accompany them, to ultimately that fullness of the encounter, which is embracing the sacraments and experiencing, of course, the Eucharist, which is our source and summit. And it's beautiful. I'm sure you have a ton of stories. So we have about 3 minutes left. So any most recent witness to somebody's experience?
Well, I can say that there is one other group that OCIA could serve. It really is up to the parish, but we open it up to anybody. So
practicing Catholics.
Yes, definitely. And a lot of times we'll have family members or friends that will accompany somebody, and that's fine. They're welcome to come. But we also have a group that we nickname the Update Onlys, who have been away from the church for a long time. And maybe they've recently gone to reconciliation, or they're just coming back, and they're like, but I don't remember anything. I don't know anything. What do I do?
Yeah.
Well, instead of that, what do you do with them?
Yeah.
So we tell them they're welcome to come and just listen to presentations, interact with people. And I guess my favorite story of that was an older man, wonderful guy, who was raised Catholic, was even confirmed, but around high school, he just left the church. He went into the military, left the church, and it was only years later that he came back. And I asked him if he had been attending Mass, and he said, oh, yes, it's not in Latin anymore. And I thought, wow, that's been a while.
Yeah. Oh my gosh.
So, I mean, it also serves people like that too.
Yeah.
It doesn't have to be exclusionary.
Right. Yeah. Because you welcome all too. And again, I've been there, and experienced the mission, Immaculate Conception. And it's always, when you walk in and everyone is treated as if they've already been known, so there's never a stranger that walks in. There's also too, like the signs outside.
That's a big part of it, is communication.
Yeah, just really leading people, which sounds so simple, but I mean, it's just very basic. I've seen other parishes too put up signs like thinking about becoming Catholic. But I think for us too, those of us that have been gifted, with the grace of faith, the opportunity to invite people to come into the church or to learn more about it. And that's our mission, right, is evangelizing. So once we get to know someone, we discover they may not necessarily be Catholic, but they may be interested, the opportunity for us to be able to say, well, come and see, come and check it out. No pressure.
No pressure.
Yeah,
right.
Never any pressure. Like, I just want to tell you thank you from the bottom of my heart. Just tons of gratitude for the mission that you are helping, move people forward into their encounter with our Lord Jesus. I mean, we'll never see the fruits of everything.
Of course not.
But, I know for sure that the Lord is shining down, really brightly on you. So thanks, Tammy, for everything that you do.
Thank you.
Denham. And I look forward to working with you, this coming year too.
Great.
As we always do. Thanks so much. Thank you so much for being with us on Catholic Life. Until next time, may God bless you and grant you his peace.